Sexual harassment is something that is pushed against you without your consent. When you're not allowing somebody, but they're forcing on you. It may not be very rough, like, oh my god, I'm gonna do something to you or touch you or something like that, but sometimes it just happens and you are like shocked and but something that you haven't been asked about.
It could be as simple as like looking at somebody inappropriately or touching them or like verbally abusing them. So it could be anything between a single gaze to literally raping them or physically inflicting violence against somebody else's body.
It has like been experienced by most of our girls, and I think it is something that we girls are not very comfortable about.
No, it can be different from like verbal abuse, touch, a look, a stare.
Sexual harassment, I think, for me, it's any sort of violation of a person's personal space, something that involves sexual actions and sexually offending behavior towards people.
The most classic example is when you walk in town and when people whistle at you and say like, hey, the dress looks hot on you or your ass looks bigger, that is harassment. But most of the time society will be like, oh, it was just a joke, it's boys being boys, men being men, but no, it is harassment.
I've seen guys, during break times, usually they are together, and when girls pass, by, I don't know, I think it's this group effect, when they are together, they have this confidence, I think, but then they, together, they shout like, sha, 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 which, is meat. So, calling that, term to girls, I think it's very offensive. That itself is sexual harassment, to connotate, breathing person to, meat, someone you can prey upon. The typical notion would be that a man would do it to a woman or a girl. Then I feel like it could go both ways, but then on an average, I feel like it's mostly inflicted on women by a man.
It always starts with these small things. People find ways to touch you. People find ways to speak to you. And in some cases, when you also start saying no, they think that you are just provocating them to do something.
During my college days, I was chased by one man.
The most extreme one I have once, and it wasn't very harsh, or it wasn't but it was a physical touch, and it went very quick and fast. I didn't know how to react, and I was just 16.
Someone of a very old age, trying to ask something inappropriate from you. It could be a very simple favor as texting their replying their texts, but I felt like that was a bit of harassment for me.
We were in this very packed bus, and then there was this man behind me. And then I could feel his hand touching my butt, and I tried to tell him off. First I decided to swat his hand away, but then he didn't get the message. So I got really angry, and what I did was I threatened the man. I told him that I would break his hands and then he would never be able to move his hands again. So then he decided to go to the front of the bus and then stay there.
It did affect me, it was so painful that it just comes out by itself. You cannot really always hide it, and then it affects you in how you think, how you view life, how you interact with people, and then some characters changes, but it may not be suddenly, but sometimes it's very gradually, and you notice those things.
This was 2 years ago in 2017. I was traveling and I was in Nepal, in Kathmandu, and me and my friends, we were at this pub, and there was a rock concert happening there, and it was summertime, so I was wearing a shorts and I was wearing a t-shirt, and we were just having a really good time. It was a really good time. We were having a lot of fun, and then I felt a man grabbing my butt from behind.
If it is a girl, it's very hard to come out and say I've been sexually harassed in a society where it is very conservative to be known as someone who has been a victim, and it's always never a good thing, especially in a society like ours.
Well, often what happens to rape victim is, instead of charging or blaming the perpetrator, we often tend to stigmatize and then blame the person who has been victimized. So they feel like the person is of low character, or that they encourage the perpetrator. So sometimes sexual harassment can be, like as simple as looking at, like someone looking at you inappropriately. So during those times, I don't think people who face those, like kind of harassment will be able to like report that person to the police or, tell anyone. So because people will definitely be telling them, maybe you just saw it in a wrong way, like maybe you're exaggerating, this is not a big deal. I think those kind of attitude from the people often stop people from, reporting such things which they consider are very simple. But in other cases, sexual harassment occurs in school. The whole issue in toxicology. 9 lecturers were, I think, fired from their jobs. Like if students are sexually harassed by their teachers, they won't be able to report that because you know how it works.
People don't speak out about sexual harassment is because people will only say she or he is trying to get attention, and it's not like, I did anything, I just catcalled her, but it still makes people uncomfortable.
I think the law also does not affect much, because though there are laws, and according to our constitution we have like if teasing is listed in sexual harassment, but then our society is built in such a way that people have accepted this culture of if teasing and catcalling.
We all are there. Like, you're not the only one, and you can always ask for help, and please don't be very, very afraid.
Don't be afraid to do what you think is right, if you feel it's wrong, don't think that you're overacting or anything, just go avail help. To all the sexual all the victims of sexual harassment, you should definitely speak up about these things, your experiences, so that you don't, you help, you prevent someone else from becoming a victim like you.
I would say if you could just come and apologize. Maybe you mistook something out of us. Maybe we were being, cool, but maybe you misjudged the person. And if you have already sexually harassed someone, I think you should understand that once a mental health is, disturbed, it is always there. And there's no overcoming this feeling. It's more about acceptance and moving on with it and learning from it.
Your excuse as being drunk is not valid. Any kind of excuse is not valid for sexual harassment.
I cannot stop them. The fact is, I cannot stop them. It is there and it will be there. That's an awful fact. But what we can do is, we can bring our children, or we can raise them in such a way that they know what is the difference between harassment and what is sex. And then we can educate them in that way. But for those who all are harassing and those who are continuing, we cannot stop them because it has become their habit.